Now we're going to pivot a little bit now, and you'll actually get to hear me for a short amount of time, and something that we are here at Definiti very, very excited about, and that is something that has become more and more of a talking point across both the record keeping, the TPA, and the financial advisory segments, all three stakeholders, if you will, in the retirement services industry, and that's data and specifically payroll integration. And I'm delighted to have a conversation with you all about today about a solution that Definiti is on the precipice of launching, which we are referring to as Definiti Direct, will be our payroll integration solution that we'll be able to provide to not only defined contribution administration clients from a TPA perspective, but also for those clients that are utilizing our 316 services, whether on an unbundled or bundled basis. So let's jump right in, and let me see if I can actually get my screen to move forward there. So what is Definiti Direct? It is, as I mentioned, our solution for curating payroll integration between plan sponsors, payroll vendors, and their record keepers. And it's really a tool for efficient business execution, not just for the record keeper and Definiti as the TPA on the plan and/or 316. But also for you as the advisor and the plan sponsor. And we'll get into that a little bit later on about why that is. And finally, it's a cloud-based technology that keeps data secure while reducing costly errors. You think of, for your small and mid-sized business owners with whom you do retirement business, think about the amount of time that they spend week to week, month to month, and over the course of the year, either submitting payroll data or ensuring that missing data is corrected to ensure that loan repayment data is spot on to what should be deducted through the payroll process, to ensure that all the appropriate census data is being provided for eligibility tracking, for vesting calculations, and so on. It's really become, probably the largest responsibility out of all of the administrative tasks that a plan sponsor has on their defined contribution plan. So why is payroll integration and why is Definiti Direct specifically needed? Number one, it allows plan sponsors to focus on the business of running their business every day. Secondly, it improves accuracy and takes out a lot of the manual intervention that's oftentimes needed to correct manual errors. Thirdly, it increases productivity. As I mentioned, think about the amount of time that a plan sponsor spends week to week, month to month, and over the course of the year uploading payroll contributions to their record-keeping website. Fourthly, it reduced costs. That time spent uploading census and payroll data, correcting census and payroll data, ensuring that everything is secure, that costs time and money for the plan sponsor. So the ability to outsource that responsibility can assist them in reducing costs and making them more productive. And then finally, this is probably an unintended consequence in many cases for plan sponsors who utilize this type of service. It eases the year-end data collection process as well as the audit process for plan sponsors that need to go through a required audit. So I'll give you a little bit of background on why this was so important for Definiti, as an additional service to launch as part of our suite of services to our clients. And if you take a look at industry research, plan sponsors are averaging about 60 hours per year merely to submit and upload payroll files. And that's for a single biweekly file, 26 files per year, nearly 60 hours. And that does not include the time that they spend correcting those errors. Then you think about how much additional time above and beyond those 60 hours that they spend on that year-end data collection process for compliance testing, the data collection that's needed for their 5500 filing, and then the questionnaires that they'll oftentimes need to complete in order to move forward with their plan's audit. When you couple that with the fact that the vast majority of compliance issues can be traced to inaccurate payroll information, obviously you begin to see the writing on the wall why this type of service offering has become so important, to be added into the suite of services that Definiti can provide. So if you do a very basic case study, you take a look at an employee with a fully loaded annualized compensation and benefits total of $50,000 per year. And now you have that person working on that payroll contribution and payroll upload process. Their equivalent hourly rate is about $24 a week, $24 per hour, multiplied times 40 hours per week, 52 weeks per year. That gives you your $50,000. Again, by spending nearly 60 hours per year on submitting and updating those payroll files, the average client, with those files being processed, on a bi-weekly basis, and the average client size being about 50 total employees. That's roughly $1,500 in lost expense and productivity just out of that one employee. And again, that has nothing to do with the time and effort involved in processing and the correction of errors. That's just the baseline payroll upload and census upload process for these folks. So again, $1,500, and then probably in multiples above and beyond that when you throw in the corrections process and the year-end data collection processes as well. So let's talk a little bit about how Definiti Direct will work. There are going to be two critical requirements in order to utilize the service. First, the plan sponsor needs to be with a connected record keeper with whom Definiti Direct has established either an API or an SFTP interface. There's currently 4 record keepers with whom we're connected. There will be another 2 that are connected prior to the year end, prior to December 31, and several others that are expected to launch in the first quarter of 2023. So when we take a look at those 6 prior to year end, and then the 3 that are on the docket for the first quarter of next year, that represents 9 of the top 10 record keepers with whom Definiti does business. The second component and critical requirement of how it works is that plan sponsors must be connected with a connected payroll vendor. They must utilize a connected payroll vendor. Currently, when you take a look at the API interface, as well as the SFTP interface, that includes ADP Run, ADP Total Source, ADP Workforce Now, Apex, Paychex, Paylocity, and QuickBooks, the online version of QuickBooks. And then from an SFTP perspective, it also includes Ceridian Dayforce, Paycom, UKG, and Workday. The exciting thing about the payroll vendors that are already currently connected through Definiti Direct is that represents more than 75% of working Americans. Okay, so this is a service that by and large can be utilized, with a fantastic number of the clients with whom we currently work and with whom we're looking to work. So our implementation team would walk the plan sponsor through a brief onboarding process. For API connected payroll vendors, that setup process can oftentimes be done in as little as 30 minutes and have no additional fees or service charges associated with it. So you think about the process that a lot of plan sponsors go through now with payroll integration services that are offered by some record keepers, TPAs, and vendors. Sometimes that can take a month, 2 months, several months, in order to be in place. With our API connected vendors, again, can be done in as little as 30 minutes with our implementation team. The SFTP connected payroll vendors, that's the process that we typically see with some integrated programs through other record keepers and TPAs and payroll vendors. Depending upon the connected payroll vendor, that can take between 3 to 8 months for programming purposes, because that needs to go through their IT prioritization process. Those processes may also have individual setup as well as ongoing fees. That's something that certainly the Definiti team, upon our launch, will be able to discuss with you and the plan sponsor who may be interested in the service. But once the connectivity is completed, Definiti Direct monitors the transitions and has access to capitalize on the efficiencies for the plan's compliance reporting and testing immediately. So one question that I typically get is, okay, well, if a plan sponsor decides to utilize Definiti Direct, let's say at the beginning of June, and it's a calendar plan year, what are we going to do about the data that you need for year-end testing purposes because you didn't have access to that data during the first 5.5 months of the year? That's not the case. Since we're connected directly with that payroll vendor, we have access to the full year information immediately. So we don't even need to go back to the plan sponsor at the end of the year during the data collection process to get partial year information, because we have access to all of the files for the entire year. So when I talked about some of the efficiencies that Definiti Direct can provide, let's take a deeper look at that. What does that census data, provide us, as a TPA or in serving as 316 on a plan? Number one, it provides us with all of the information necessary to calculate eligibility. You think about it right now with most plan sponsors who are uploading payroll directly to their record keeper, they're only providing the data for participants with accounts already in the plan. Okay, so they're completely missing those employees who may be eligible to participate but are not, or they may not be including folks who are employed by the organization but who have not yet become eligible to participate in the plan. And that responsibility for eligibility calculation falls directly in the plan sponsor's lap. That's something from a TPA perspective we'd be able to assist with the plan sponsor with, or from a 316 perspective, completely take that eligibility tracking off their plate altogether. Think about maintaining accurate deferral percentages. Okay, having that 360 capability through the payroll vendors that are connected through API, and being able to have those percentages passed directly from the record keeper, where a participant can go into the website, change their deferral percentage, and have it connected directly with the payroll vendor, save a lot of time and effort with the folks who are typically responsible for that process with our plan sponsors. Thirdly, administering the loan and hardship withdrawal process. It would certainly expedite some of the backup and census-related data that's typically required in order to folks to have access to those types of transactions. I mentioned year-end reporting. Think about the time and effort that typically goes into folks sending out their year-end data questionnaire for compliance testing. No longer having to do that with a plan sponsor, and knowing that you have complete and accurate data the first time that report is pulled down from the payroll vendor, and not having to go back and forth for missing data, or this person's hire date wasn't included, or we're missing this component of compensation. All of that is resolved by utilizing this service program. And finally, that clean, eligible employee and participant data to fully leverage full scope 316 services. This type of connectivity gives Definiti and the Fiduciary Studio, our wholly owned entity that provides our 316 services, all of the data and information that they need to serve as the full scope 316 fiduciary on the plan. So why is this so important, other than above and beyond some of the efficiencies that I mentioned earlier? I'm not going to go through all these points, but I thought it was very important to share with all of you. When you take a look at the information on screen here, this is just the beginning of what the DOL would request when an examination begins on a plan. Okay, the interesting thing here that you'll see as advisors, how many items do you see on here that are specific to investments on the plan? You don't see anything. And that's part of the reason why I mentioned earlier that on average, more than 90% of compliance defects on the plan are specific to errors that occur within the payroll remittance process from plan sponsors. And these were taken directly from an examination letter sent from the Department of Labor to a plan sponsor. If you take it a step further for an IRS examination, the laundry list, becomes even longer. And again, you take a look at the items that they're requesting at the beginning of the examination. And again, it's all specific to the plan document and participant data that's typically associated with vesting. It's typically associated with transactions on the plan, eligibility, and ensuring that the plan is being operated in tandem with the way the plan document has been designed. So when and how can we help? We expect a full launch of Definiti Direct prior to the end of the year. Obviously, we want that to happen sooner rather than later. We're already at a point where the technical connectivity is already in place. We're now in the process of training all of our staff across our broader enterprise, DC administration, 316 administration, sales and marketing, and so on. But we expect all of that training to be in place so that we can effectively launch this prior to year end for sales heading into 2023. I encourage each and every one of you to reach out to your Definiti regional sales director, regional sales consultant, or regional relationship director for opportunities with new or in-force business. One of the nice things in working with Definiti is that we have technology in place where we can take a look at our existing book of business to see who of our clients are with a connected payroll vendor and with a connected record keeper, and touch base with you and provide that information to you. That way you can be the one that reaches out to your client to provide this additional service to them. So Definiti Direct, in comparison to what we typically see with payroll upload services, it is a monthly subscription-based fee based upon the total number of employees. So typically what you see with manual payroll upload processing is that there's a per file fee. So a plan that has weekly payroll files, 52 files per year, it's typically going to be more expensive than a plan that has biweekly 26 files per year. This is a monthly subscription fee, so it has nothing to do with the number of files that a plan has per year. It has everything to do with their total number of employees, and there will be a monthly subscription fee for that, the pricing details of which will be forthcoming prior to our launch at the end of the year. So it'll be transparent pricing, very easy to understand, and billed directly through Definiti, with the exception of one particular payroll vendor. but that payroll vendor would bill them directly based off of their billing structure that goes direct to that particular payroll vendor. So what I'd like to do now, I really just wanted to give folks a nice overview of the product and service. We're very excited to begin offering this to our clients, both in-force clients as well as new and prospective clients. Wanted to open it up to see if there are any questions specific to payroll integration, payroll upload processes, and what this can mean for further development of your business with your clients going forward.